Is it a... Hmm. Is there use in a bodhisattva having idle time? Is there idle time for a bodhisattva?
I don't want to sound cute, but what do you mean by idle?
Sitting and drinking at a bar for like 2 hours on a Friday night or something. Or just playing a video game for an hour.
So a waste of time.
A waste. I didn't want to add that.
This life is much, much shorter than people imagine. I talked to a friend yesterday, but I hadn't seen her in a while. And then I realized this is not someone I know very, very intimately, but I knew her from a residency. So that's like 50 years ago. And I asked her, how long did that take, that 50 years? And we both laughed because it's really quite extraordinary. Time, the passage of time accelerates. So you can waste time. You can use time to relax and refresh. You can use, some people enjoy social interactions, others don't. I don't socialize with my best friends, right? And so again, it all depends. And there are other times when doing nothing would be the highest art for some people. But they'd have to be truly doing nothing. And that's going to be hard to arrange on this earth, right? And plus there's other things going on at another level altogether.
That's my question.
Well, we can't speak. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, so please continue with your thought.
I said, but you can't speak of those levels to people until they're there, right? And they know, and even then, the need to speak of them becomes relatively minimal, right? But so can one waste time? Yes. With regard to bodhisattvas, let me just tell you what the Dali Lama, he said, someone said, this was in Arizona, he was in Arizona. Quite a guy, that man. At any rate, he took some time off to go see the plant, see some some museum or some, it was like a bio garden of the flora and the fauna of Arizona. And so he was walking around and he was studying the plants in Arizona because they're very different than the mountains of Tibet. And it was and someone I think had asked him, well, don't you ever take a vacation? And he said, there are no vacations for bodhisattvas. But it's not, a vacation could be more work than it's worth. If people were really honest, I mean, I've been on vacations that were disastrous because people were so hell-bent on having a good time. They were trying to meet their expectations and they were miserable. And meanwhile, the people serving them, I'm thinking now of the Yucatan in Mexico, the people that were serving the fish and catching the fish and driving the boats and they weren't drinking the mojitas and margaritas and all the other stuff, they were having the best time of all. So these guys were, they were just having, a grand old time. And the tourists, the gringos, were just like miserable because they were afraid they weren't getting it. It's you know what I'm talking about because you've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, so just because people apply the word vacation or apply the word idle time or apply the word relaxation, you still need to know what those things mean in reality, even in relative reality, because people don't know what they're talking about, right? I mean, the guy what would he do? So you go into a bar and you find a single girl at a bar. Okay. So let's say it's like the dog who catches the car, right? So let's say this guy who's got this social anxiety manages to get this girl. Now what? Now what's he going to do? Right? So this could be things working out for the best. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is, and again, it's understanding and insight. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking about the guy for some reason actually gets that girl and thinks that he's in a better situation now.
Now the booze is going to wear off, and now what's he going to do? So again, it's insight that we cultivate. And from that insight, then the need for courage starts to disappear. And so the reason that I realize now, the reason that courage is not a, well, a paramita, I guess, would be, number one, I'm not in a position to second guess traditions, and also the paramitas, they vary a little bit depending on the culture and the times, etc. But with a sufficient insight, you don't need courage. Why would you be afraid of death if you're not going to die? I mean, it's like being afraid of death in a video game. What? And even then, in a video game, you might have to pay to play the game again, but you don't have the same problem here. So with insight, you don't need courage. With enough generosity, you don't need courage. I mean, you'd say to the Bengal tiger, you'd say, "Oh, poor Bengal tiger, you're hungry, right? Here, eat my flesh," because, I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a Buddha story, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, good. Let's keep going.
Okay. Then there are mechanisms at work that I do not understand.
Always.
Yes. But here's
and you always have a partial view of everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's my concern with where I'm at.
So with insight, one does not need to cultivate humility. Keep going. That's funny, but that's okay.
Well, you could, yeah. I get, yeah. Okay. Here's my concern. I feel as though it's become only recently with the media or whatever I'm ingesting. I think I've ever actually reflected on it that much until waking up over the past few months. The actual level of suffering in the world, the actual amount of it, and I feel like I'm not doing enough.
Well, are you?
Like it's, well, I guess you could say that you could never possibly be doing quote unquote enough.
You could say that.
But I have a very hard time with the I have a very hard time with the entire calculus of all my actions, which ones or subset of ones are the things to do to help.
Well, in that case, the thing to do is to cultivate oneself. And then the needs will appear. I mean, that one's really straightforward. I mean, in my mind at the moment. It may change tomorrow, but at the moment it seems very straightforward. One cultivates oneself with the increased insight, with the increased perspective, then one starts to understand how one might help, right? But we've got plenty of do-gooders in the world that are creating havoc all over the place. Many people have died at the hands of good people trying to do good things. I know from the Amazon where the missionaries were down there converting the Indians right and left and not teaching them Spanish, teaching them English. And so yeah, first thing is to cultivate oneself and to examine oneself and examine one's motives and to look at the situation. Doing good in this world, unless you're helping an individual or a family or is very not as easy as people imagine. They think that all they need is like good intentions or good vibes, or I don't know what they think it is, or just the right label over their church. But what is it? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I like Muhammad. My back has been broken by pious men. Boom. So to cultivate oneself is the first step. And then compassion arises naturally, of course, because then you realize you're not helping someone else. They are you. Right? So then there's no need for this attitude of do goodness or whatever. Just take care of yourself. Jesus, what you do to the least of these, you do unto me. Well, that's not just hurting them, that's also helping them. Right? So to me, that's a straight shot. You just need to understand more, and then maybe you'll have the chance of trying to help. But people go off half-cocked, and they hurt people more than they realize, and it's a double tragedy. Because that goodwill, that good heart could have been used for something constructive instead of something inadvertently destructive. But this world is a world of constant change, and at some point we need to address to talk about the book of change, which I'm not equipped to do. And so the I Ching it will help one understand better this notion of that everything is in flux. Everything is always in flux, and what was good today may be wrong tomorrow, or bad tomorrow. Do you see what I'm saying? And so one has to be in the present if there's going to be any hope of understanding. Otherwise, we're just completely in fantasy land. And then you could do that, and people, for example, people that want coaching, they insist on doing that. And so you let that burn out, but then you get down to the concrete. Okay, now what do we do? And invariably, it's cultivate insight, cultivate discipline, cultivate generosity, patience, forbearance, and for some kids, courage, because they didn't have a chance. They were deprived of the natural course of things, and they don't have courage. I mean, I see these kids like ganging up on some little kid. You couldn't do that in a normal society. You can't do that because no one would stand for it. You'd be ashamed. You'd be ashamed. Okay, so go ahead.